how are we?
Not too bad. It's Friday, long week at work, so feeling a little bit tired. It's nice to see
Yeah.
you guys. It makes me feel a bit more refreshed
Nice.
and
It's nice.
cheerful.
It's good to see
Nice.
you guys after coming back from had a nice little holiday. So it's nice to
Get
be
out
back.
of it. Get out of it. No, you didn't. Did you?
I tell you what, Win.
Oh,
He's a nightmare, this fella.
well, there's only three of us on it. Where have you been? Where'd you go?
Indonesia. It's lovely.
Indonesia.
Nice.
Really nice.
Yes.
Yeah. It was chilled. Really cool. Enjoyed it.
A week? 2 weeks?
But that's enough about that. Just over a week.
Just over a week.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
You was traveling as well, wasn't you, Mike? You was traveling.
Yes, I went to East Africa.
Lovely.
Yes. Ethiopia, to be precise.
I was unfortunately I was in South London. As
Allegedly.
per usual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dealing with my crises.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with the NHS.
Yeah. Yes. That's good. Let me count. There's 1, 2, 3 of us on there.
Yeah, someone else is traveling as well.
Is somebody else? There's a piece of this kind of puzzle thing missing, which is Anthony.
Yeah. He's
Yes.
he's
So
traveling as well.
he's travelling as well, and so big up Anthony, and Anthony even will hopefully be back next week. So big up Anthony.
Cool.
Anyway, right. So let's crack on. So as it's been 2 weeks out, we thought we'd do something a little bit different and introduce something slightly new to the proceedings this evening, even, which is subject bingo, and I'm going to explain the rules. Can I explain the rules?
Of course you can.
Right. Okay. There's 6 questions, and they're numbered. You guys don't know the numbers. I know the numbers. And as there's 6 questions, right, we'll take it in turns. So you'll have to call out a number between 1 and 6, and whatever the number you call out will denote the question, and it will be your opportunity to lead on said question. It won't be just your opinion or ideas on that question. It'll be a quick fire round the table discussion about said question. All right, because we're conscious of time and we want to try and push through the 6 questions. All right.
Sounds
I
interesting.
will take the last 2 questions because obviously I know what the numbers are and I know what the questions are. So I think it probably best as there's 3 of us that yourself and Nick, if you're both happy to alternate the number, so you both will take it in turn to pick a number. All right, and I will pick up the last 2 questions. All right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Nick, if you don't mind, pick a number between 1 and 6.
Number 1, please, sir.
Number 1. That's
Between 1 and 6.
yeah. Well, I know. I'm just saying. All right. So your question is, as it's number 1, reads: is freedom of speech over, or is it just evolving?
Oh, good question. Freedom of speech.
I know. That's why I just asked it.
In its purest form. That was good, Mike. In its purest form, it's still here. I think the rules as far as I'm aware are as long as you're not inciting to violence,
Yep.
basically harm to others, etc., you can still say what you want. I think social media and the things I've seen on the news where people are getting arrested for certain things, I don't believe how much of what I'm hearing. So for me, I'm sitting here now very, very worried about things that I say. So is my freedom of speech over? It's definitely being squashed. And I don't think that I can speak on any subject that I believe I should be able to.
Right.
So yeah, that would be my quick answer.
Right. Okay. Win.
Just elaborate on that. Yeah. It's a good question. I think to myself, like, let's say go back like maybe 20 years. Would I have been so reluctant to say certain things on different types of topics? And I probably would have been a bit more open, to be fair. I think probably that is because of the culture that we live in at the present moment. And it's not that we can't speak, because we do have freedom to talk and communicate and let our opinions be known. But I just think that if you do say something wrong, the whole world kind of zooms in on you to a certain degree. But I think just going back to maybe pods that we've done before with regards to communication, I do think that I'm able to voice my opinions, but maybe that's because my opinions are not really threatening. So I think that majority of my opinions come from a place of 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 quite balance anyway. And anything that's kind of disagreeable, I can kind of get my point across without kind of unnecessarily upsetting somebody, if you know what I mean. Like I can discuss it with someone and then I can agree to disagree. But do I think that the world has become more of a an edited place? It seems like it does, but when I'm thinking about it, I feel like fearful about speaking about stuff. So I don't feel like I'm in like certain other country where you can't really say much because the government's kind of like, you know, on your case. If you mention it, I do feel that I have amounts of freedom to talk. Some of the things that I probably would have said when I was younger, but that was because I was unwise. I would have chosen to speak about it in a different way, with a bit more kind of I'm going to say balance, or a bit more kind of maturity, because then I was very immature and I would just burst into, I disagree with that, and that's my opinion. But yeah, I mean, and I think that we do have a lot of enough freedom to speak our minds and get our points across.
I think it's more. I think it's, sorry, Win. I think it's more. I think it's more about upsetting people. I think this bit about offending people and upsetting. I don't care about upsetting people and offending people. That's not that in and of itself. I don't care about, because I'm not out to offend anyone. But if I do it, should I then be cancelled or whatever it is? So am I getting judged by the public because they don't like my opinions because we don't share the same view? Or is this an authority thing that's saying you can no longer say that? And I don't think that's in place. I think it's more to do with you're really causing offence, so therefore we have to do something to you, or blah blah blah. That's the concern.
Yeah.
No.
I know, I'd agree, and I think that in past days, say when we grew up, let's say around in the 70s, people used to get away with blue murder. They could say stuff that, you know, that was really offensive. And get away with it. Where now you can't really be so abrasive and you know, just outright rude, because people are judging you because of your behavior. So I would agree with Nick as well. Like, you know, I believe that we do have freedom to talk and speak. It's not an issue.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think to a certain degree, but I do think we're in an era, as I think you guys would mention, this cancel culture has made people very reticent and fearful to actually say what they actually mean or want to say. But to balance it off, though, I do think that anything that, what you said, Nick, anything that for me that incites hatred or violence or fear to others, I think that has to be looked at. This is my humble opinion, and controlled. I mean, I think there could, but and I suppose me and you have spoken about this, Nick, as well. You know, maybe that should be a bit more transparent so people know what people are thinking, because whether it's said in the public domain or not, these thoughts and ideas will always be there, really. And is it better that it's out in the open, that people, if people are, for example, being inappropriate towards children or whatever the case may be, we know who those people are.
For me, like I said to you, Mike, for me, yes, I think everything should be able to be spoken about. Then we know who the loons are. We know who the nutcases are.
I do get all of that, but my concern is that, you know, what can happen as a result of, really, because people are quite become quite hang on to somebody. People can hang on to every word that's spoken and said sometimes, and you just don't know where that's gonna lead up. So that's my own personal concern about that. But I also think as well, I think it has evolved in a nice way that people who necessarily didn't have a voice before, historically, have platforms and voices to kind of speak up and say things that perhaps maybe 40, 50 years ago, that the opportunity wasn't there. So I'm really glad that it has evolved and given people opportunities to do so. But as I said, I'm kind of on the balance of it. I think, that people should be able to say things to a certain degree, but there needs to be controls in place also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that people are a lot more measured with the way that they communicate and get their points across in the 21st century, which I think is good, because now you have to think a little bit about how how you're phrasing things and putting things together, and it's because you don't want to offend nobody. So I think it's done a lot of good, to be quite honest with you. When you listen to the kind of conversations that go around in the workplace, that people are a lot more kind of thoughtful with the way that they kind of communicate, knowing that potentially it could cause offense. So it's everyone's erring on the side of caution, but it's not a bad thing. But is there a place for when you want to really, really air your dirty laundry, so to speak? Can you do that as well?
Yeah, and what's the implications? And what's the implications of that?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Not being funny. The question is freedom of speech being kind of played down? Okay. Well, I'll talk for me. I work for a company that if I was to say certain things, I don't know how they would react to that. I don't know whether I would still have a job tomorrow. Is that stifling my freedom of speech?
It's just it's perspective, though, isn't it? Because you might say something that you think might cause offence, but it might get a great conversation.
No, absolutely, 100%, 100%. And don't get me wrong, I'm saying my company, I'm quite comfortable that I could say that they've taken me on because of my opinions are in line with theirs. But what I'm saying is, if I was to step out of that, and that became my opinion, am I then in threat of, are people out there stifled by what they can say through threat of employment? And if that's the case...
But your organisation would have a set of values, though, wouldn't they? And if you're
right, so Mike, but you've just hit the point. Who would?
The organisation that you work for would have a set of values that you've kind of more or less signed up to adhere towards.
What? So is that between my working hours or the rest of the time that I'm not working there?
Well,
during my 9 to 5, I'll adhere to the values. Yeah. So I'm in contract, right?
So we can turn values on and off. Then is that what we're saying?
I think a lot of people do. I'm not saying I do, but I think a lot of people do. I think it's a pretense.
I get you.
Yeah, but brilliant subject. But I'm aware that you want to get through 6. But I'm just saying to you, this. Yeah. I love that question. Like Winston said, I love this question because this is we're just scratched it.
We are on me. Yeah. Okay, Skip, over to you. A question between 2 and 6, please.
I'm gonna just go for 3. 3. Number 3. Yeah.
Number 3. Okay.
Just to be awkward.
Are Arsenal gonna win the? Sorry.
Okay.
Did Arsenal?
No. What's the one thing school never taught you but should have? And I'll repeat that. What's the one thing school never taught you but should have?
That's because there's a lot, but there's one main thing that I can think of right now, and that is like financial planning.
Hey, beat me to it, you sucker. Yeah.
they throw you out into this big wide world at like 16, 17, where they don't prepare you for it. Obviously, your parents should be doing that job, but it's not everybody's parents that are aware of financial planning. So I think for me, it would have been great if I had a bit more knowledge of how to manage bills and why it's important, and et cetera, how to invest, the thinking about kind of managing your your affairs. What is debt? What's an
Yeah.
asset? What's a liability? Things like that would have been quite helpful for me because at an early age I just went buck wild when as soon as I got a credit card I started spending like nobody's business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, oh, I got money.
Absolutely.
Oh, but I got to pay it back.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But did you really?
I did. I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
pay it back. I had to get bailiffs coming to your door and stuff like that. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, financial planning
No.
would be one of the things that I could think of that school should really kind of integrate into the curriculum. And I mean, and they could do
Yeah.
it quite easily. I would have thought as well. It's not something that's really difficult to do. I
Mm.
think that maybe they'll probably do it now. I don't know if you guys have experienced or heard of
Mm.
your children speaking about it. Um,
No.
yeah, I mean that would have been a good one. Financial planning.
Brilliant win. Nick?
I'm going to say what you said, Mike, which was he beat me to it because I think we've all got that in mind. However, just
Yeah.
while Winston was talking, two of the things that I was thinking that all three of us have had big conversations about is I don't think we spent enough time looking at justice, morals, values. A class on just subjects around that, genuinely, specifically for that. This is what a set of values are. This is what this means. This is what morals are. The difference between values and morals.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, empathy. Teaching maybe about being like having empathy for others. What that means, what that entails.
Yeah.
You know, we had all these other studies, but that would have been, I think that would have been, yeah, specifically on that. You know,
Yeah.
and I've got to be honest with you, and if I think for the friendship group that I had, there was a lot of single parent families. So I wonder whether it would have been, again, coming under the morals, values, all that kind of stuff, the kind of the family setup, what that would look like, what that could look like, what that potentially could look like. Because I don't know about for you, Win, but I know that for me, I only had Mr. and Mrs. Gregory to look at. That was what I had to look at to what a two-parent family actually looked like.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it was almost like being a voyeur and looking through the curtain every now and again and seeing what that world looked like.
Yeah.
That was the only kind of information.
I was gonna say something there, but I'm not.
And I appreciate it, Mike.
No, I'm gonna let that
Yep.
slide.
Hold.
Oh.
But yeah, for me, maybe morals and values and ethics, stuff like that, you know, around that.
Yeah.
How to think,
yeah.
not how to
I really
think,
like that.
not what to
Good.
think. How to think, not what to think. Back to that.
Well, I don't think religious education did very much at school. I don't even recall if we had.
I think we did it. I think we did it, didn't we?
I don't recall it, you know.
Yeah, we
I
did
think we
that.
might have touched the surface. I think we did, but
Yeah,
not.
I did.
They didn't take it really
Yeah.
seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
Mr. Slater used to take one of my religious education studies.
Slater. Yeah. Mr. Slater. Yeah.
Slater by name Slater by nature.
Yeah. Mine's similar to yours, Willie, I've got to say. But, you know, they don't really teach us how to be sort of entrepreneurs and all, you know, and work for ourselves. We were kind of taught like the kind of mainstream stuff, like to go out and get a job and the 9 to 5, work for companies, even go to university and stuff like that. We're not taught to kind of, you know, create our own wealth streams and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'd really appreciated that because, you know, the younger cats out there now, they're not really looking. Well, a lot of them are not looking at 9 to 5s.
No, you're right.
No. You know what I mean, they're looking to become an entrepreneur. Do you know what I mean? They're looking at more agile ways of working. Do you know what I mean? You know, and different lifestyles. You know what I mean? You know, which I think is absolutely. You know, a lot of them. If you discuss like working for a company now, they run a mile.
Yeah.
I think they're so restrictive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So restrictive. I'd have really loved the opportunity to kind of really explore the notion or the possibility of like working for myself and owning my own company, being an entrepreneur. Do you know what I mean? And creating wealth streams for others as well. Do you know what I mean? I would have loved that. But you know, it's never too never. But
the thing is, it's kind of like they never really taught you to be excellent. to pursue excellence and to pursue, like, you know, to be the best at whatever you do. There
Yep.
was never really that kind of mindset that was put
Yeah.
into our curriculum.
Yeah.
And when I look around, and I think, we're in the UK, probably, in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, in terms of industry and stuff that was going on, steelwork, coal. And, I mean, probably England was probably had some of the best industrial skills going, around the world. But something seems to have fallen off because we're not in that pursuit of, like, we look at places like China, they're in a pursuit of, like,
Oh
excellence.
yeah. Oh yeah.
They want to be the best at technology.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
on it. Like, you go most Asian countries, they're not mucking around. But I don't seem to have that over here. It's just really service driven. So for me, it's kind of like, where is that kind of pursuit of excellence? Who's teaching that? Maybe there is schools that do it. I don't know. I mean, if anybody out there that knows that,
There's a lot of academies and stuff like that.
institutions.
Then academies and all that now, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're
they
called,
do.
but
They do have
yeah.
them. They do have them.
Yeah.
But, and maybe I'm being naive that that there is actually some great stuff going on, but I don't really hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you listen to the news, or you listen to, like, some of the morning programs, they don't really talk about young people being, pursuing excellence and being the best in their industry at doing a specific field. I don't feel like it's like that in the UK. I think it's a bit more. It's become like, just get to work. here's your A levels or your whatever. Okay, get out there and go and earn some money, pay your taxes, and be cool. That's it. And then at the weekend, spend your money because we want you to consume. It doesn't seem like they're trying to kind of birth brilliance. Like other countries are to a certain degree. I believe that they are. Like, if you go to like India and Asia, they're not mucking about. Their youngsters are on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pursuit of excellence. There's something that comes to mind that I would have liked to see in our curriculum, more encouragement of that kind of nature.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, if you have a look, just really quickly get this out of the way. You're saying about that win, and what it reminds me of, there's a guy out there called Sir Ken Robinson, who was one of the heads of education in the UK, and he asked the question to the audience of, say for example in the UK, just for a second, what was the education system set up for? Now you have to go back to basics. What was it set up for? What was the reason? Now there's always been education of course for millennia. However, during the Industrial Revolution, when it was set up, when the education system was set up how it is now, it was set up, and there's a reason why the top two subjects are the same all around the world, which is mathematics and languages. Doesn't matter where you go, whether you go to parts of Africa, India, Europe, doesn't matter. Languages and mathematics. And there's a reason for that. Is because during the Industrial Revolution, what they needed was, they needed people that could read, write, and count. That was it. Why? So that we could go and work in the factories and be on the factory floor to put a certain amount of items into a box and send the label to the proper address. That was the main reason for the education system.
Right.
So why are they going to look for excellence from us?
Yeah, this is the thing.
You know,
that's your role. That's your level.
that's your role. That's what you are.
Yeah.
You know, that was the main reason for the education system in the, well, for most places during the Industrial Revolution. That was the main reason for the education. That's according to Sir Ken Robinson, who was one of the heads of the education system in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no wonder.
Wow.
So really, the education system plays the role that it plays is to basically get you into work. Really, just
get you into that 9 to 5.
You to pay your taxes and get on with it, which is fine. But it doesn't seem like it doesn't inspire. Put it that way.
No, No.
at all.
Okay. Can we move on? Are we okay?
Yep.
Right. So questions 1 and 3 have gone. So Nick, over to you. So you've now got 2, 4, 5, and 6 left.
Yeah,
Let's,
we did watch Sesame Street, Mike.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it does sound
Do
like the count, doesn't he?
No. Just why I break it down for you both.
It's a problem with that education.
We know you're going snooker after this, but
Yeah. You know what, Mike? I'll have number 2,
Number 2.
please.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any historical figure,
Oh,
who would
lovely.
it be? Who would it be, and what would you ask him?
When do you want to take this one?
no, you go first. I need to think about it.
He's like tuck you right up with that.
No. I've got mine. I've always known who mine would be. Mine would be Mahatma Gandhi. That would
Really?
be yeah, absolutely.
Why? Why? What would you ask him?
Well, my question would be, how did you get that much courage? How did you get that much love and patience and courage? How? That would be it. I could sit and listen to that answer for a long time until I've learned. Very straightforward, very easy.
Yeah, like
That's
it.
a good one.
Mahatma
Good one.
Gandhi. Yeah.
I've got quite a few, so I think I'm going to base this one on my influence of this particular week, and
This particular week.
yeah, because I've been listening
Yeah.
to a lot of Bob Marley this week for some reason. I
Okay.
think me and Nick had a discussion about it because we was talking about, you know, the current affairs in certain countries with regards to, you know, injustices. And he's got a track. I think it's called War, but
Yeah, it is.
he's talking about
Big track, yeah.
yeah, and I listened to it quite a few times after me and Nick spoke, and I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, that track's deep, you know,
Yeah.
it explains a lot.
Yeah.
So it would probably be Bob Marley, and I'll probably the question that I probably would ask him would be is, what was his inspiration to write that? And I probably would also caveat that with if he could change something in this world right now, what would he change?
Yeah.
That's probably what I would ask. But there's so many. I mean, gosh, man, I've got so many people that I've got a respect for, a reverence for. I mean, there's so many people. Black, white, Indian, and Chinese.
You know that tune was taken from Haile Selassie's speech to the League of Nations.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
The lyrics
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but you're right, it's deep. I only.
Oh, really, Nick?
Yeah. That's taken from the League of Nations speech. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a strong song. It's got so much in there. It's so thought provoking, especially for now. You know, we're living in the 21st century, and you think to yourself, like, you know, these squabbles that people are having around the world would be, you know, after the First and Second World War, you'd think to yourself, like, come on, man, you should be able to get over these situations quite easily. But it makes you realize that what's actually going on is we've got some dysfunctional leaders, man. They're dysfunctional. Because certain man's just the other day having an argument about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They're having arguments about having bitch arguments. You know what I mean? Like, is this what we've, you know, as a society will come to? Like,
we've given the keys to the asylum to the unwell ones, I think.
We've got leaders having like ghetto arguments. Like, it's crazy.
It's terrible.
Mom cusses and all sorts going on, bro.
Who would yours be, Mike? And who would yours be?
George Graham, no. Mine would be
Arteta. Asking why isn't he won the league yet?
Why didn't he buy a striker?
I don't know. I look at myself in the mirror every morning. No, mine would be Malcolm X. I would like to have a conversation with Malcolm X, right? Okay. Because where I would like to talk to him about his journey into being affiliated to the nation, really, and how, because obviously he went to prison and then he embraced Islam when he was in prison. I'd like to talk to him about how that process went and what was the trigger for that, in his own words, and also how he dealt with the fallout of trying to leave the nation and his relationship with Elijah Muhammad. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to hear it from his own words, really, to be honest, because that would have been a very, very difficult, difficult thing to go through, really, being ostracized by an organization that you'd been involved with for a considerable amount of years. Do you know what I mean? Because it's easier to stay than go. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I'd like to kind of just drill down on that with him, really. So his journey into Islam and his journey moving away from the nation, really. And the whole experience of going to Mecca. That's what I would like to. That's what I'd like to have a conversation about.
Nice.
I must admit that era of leaders and great people. They had lots of an abundance of great people at that particular point in time, whether it be sports stars, whether it be musicians, whether it be leaders, prime ministers, presidents. So that was a great time.
I'm going to say, is that a dying art then? Because that era, I mean, I suppose you could go through every era, but that there seems to be a shortage of real charismatic leaders.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know
what I mean?
It really.
Bob Marley, Malcolm X, these people. Do you know what I mean? Do we still have them? Don't know.
It's a good question. All right. Look, let's just do a quick.
Let's
have a quick look. What have we actually got in the music industry in terms of like the outstanding characters? Like the Stevie Wonders and these kind
Marvin
of
Gaye
and Marvin Gaye and who we got?
I can't think of anybody in this current era that springs to mind. Can any of you guys?
No,
but then
anyone that I would inspire to be like in the 21st century. They're all before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, in a few years' time,
you think it's an age thing? You think it's an age thing?
I think it is, because I think if we step forward 30, 40 years from now, some young people, I wonder how many. I'm going to take your term, Mike, which is are some of them romanticized?
Yeah, maybe.
Because
but Marley's not romanticized.
No. But what I'm saying is, if you're talking about great people, great human beings, Mary Curie is one of them. William Wilberforce is one of them.
William Wilberforce,
How old is he?
And then you got Malcolm X. Of course, these are great people.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many of them have been romanticized into something that they're not. I mean, how long until Margaret Thatcher is seen as like a great? She might already be by some. Don't know.
No, to some she is. To some she is.
Yeah, but is it any
some
now?
Certainly.
That's what I'm saying. In 40, 50 years' time, you might get some young people looking back at, I don't know, what's that fella, that Tate fella, and saying that that guy was great. Don't know.
Can you imagine?
Don't.
Yeah.
Driving a Bugatti.
No, Arteta.
I'm known for driving a Bugatti and checking off gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's find that down the road. It's not nothing hard to find. So let me just ask you a question with regards to this then. If you look around and look at the leaders in the world today, is any of them inspiring to you?
The leaders
in the world, like the people that lead every country in the world, is any of them? I suppose you've got the Traore.
Yeah.
He's an inspiration for what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
it's a struggle.
I can't think of any that I'd really take my hat off to and say like that person's, is it like JFK, for instance? It's not like John F. Kennedy, like, nah.
But I don't know. I mean, if you had somebody from the Ukraine, they might say Zelensky. Dunno.
Really, didn't he get cussed in the White House the other day? That he didn't have a
He
seat?
did. It did. It did. But other people, other well-known leaders have worn army regalia during times of war.
No, it
haven't
should be.
they?
I
Yeah.
don't disagree, but he got cussed.
Yes. Yes.
So the respect is not there, is it?
No.
Because
no.
if he was a respectful leader,
Yeah.
could you imagine? I don't know. Who's
No, because Churchill used to bounce around in army stuff during the war.
Well, could you imagine the
You think, yeah.
president? Could you imagine
Yeah.
the president of America saying that to Churchill?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, thinking about modern day people, not that I'm bigging him up, but he will be seen as a huge figure later on. Will be Musk. Elon Musk
don't know
will
about
be.
that.
I'm telling you, people will look at him. We just spoke about entrepreneurs. You're telling me he's not going to be seen big as an entrepreneur?
He's just cussing Donald Trump about his business.
Yeah, with the towers and all that.
He's doing Zeke Island and all that. At the at the flipping.
Right, so
the
listen,
elections and that.
just on freedom of speech, could I have told that joke? I don't think I could have. I'm just putting it out there. I couldn't have told that
I
joke.
saw it on TV, bro. I saw it on TV, so I'm just reacting to the reaction. You understand? But what I'm trying to say is, that is, it's not, there's nobody that I could say that I can respect.
Yeah.
I look at the music industry. I don't really see no. Again, maybe it's our age. Maybe it's our age. Maybe
The Island
because
Boys.
of my age.
The Island Boys.
It's,
R. Kelly, maybe.
Too soon, Mike. Too soon. Don't go. Why'd you go there? He's another oil baron, no, isn't he? This, see now, right? Our freedom of speech. Do we have to cut this out?
no. We're talking about stuff that's going on.
We'll leave your bit in there. Midwinds cut.
No, I want my bit to stay in. I want to stay in. It's fine. Fine by me. But don't get me wrong. There probably is. There probably is people out there. I mean, you've got the Attenboroughs and stuff like that do.
Yeah.
You know, the and then you've got my guy that does the science and all that. He's deep.
My guy that does the science. That's
the black guy. The black guy that does the science and all that.
Oh, Tyson. I mean, he comes out with stuff. Yeah.
You've got Joe Rogan, I respect. He does a lot of positive stuff. But I'm talking about like what's coming up.
Jordan
I can't
Peterson,
really
would he
see.
go down as one?
That's what I'm saying. Would you put your man up there, Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson. Would you put him up there?
I respect him. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody's, everyone's got their flaws, but
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
the there was some great leaders in the 70s and the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think that we have that level. And maybe it's because that people are not as deep or they're not as oppressed as much.
Yeah.
And they don't have to deal with these kind of situations as much. We become
Yeah.
a lot more softer in the West, so to speak. So yeah, maybe it's that. I don't know.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Thank you, guys. Moving on. So, win a question. So 3 questions there. 4, 5, or 6.
I'll go for my favorite number out of those 6, number 4.
Okay, which reads